Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Have the hold on. Didn't have the microphone on. Hold on. Let's see here. There we go. All right, it is the 9th, and we got a slow market. It's still a little. There we go. I'm like, that's still not loud enough. Okay, to the charts. Volume profile. Yesterday, the E-mini. Man, I mean, it kind of started out slow. They were down in the overnight market. And then, really choppy, kind of frustrating in here. And then it just... And once again, one of these high R-squared moves, which is to mean that it's like a straight line. There's not much deviation. It just goes in a diagonal line up to where it wants to go and sticks there. So now in the overnight session, we are stuck around 37.10. This has been some resistance before. I mean, we were kind of up there a few days ago. A couple of big analysts have that as a year-end target. So I would expect that it will be a little bit more difficult to get away from this spot. That said, the way that it moved was pretty eerie, and I'm sure that those can keep coming. Here, the Treasury yesterday moving up. There was a little bit of deflationary data and so forth. But here it was temporary in the overnight session. They've moved back down. Also want to add that there was auctions yesterday and they were pretty lackluster, as have many of the auctions as of late. Oil having a little bit of a spike up this morning, but still overall pretty quiet now that all of that news is past. Gold trying to make a recovery, but that still looks pretty sad. Copper up just a little bit. Still, demand from China, concerns over Australia, Chinese relationships, etc., etc., etc. And then over here in the dollar, we've got the dollar weakening somewhat. Nothing too crazy. It's still within that range, but it is happening. We should note over here that the British pound has been seeing quite a bit of strengthening as the Brexit talks look to be going quite a bit better this morning. U.S. Senator Manchin says 90% of the stimulus package will be completed on Wednesday. 90%. We need to adjust our camera there. That's a little better. Overall, though, I think the biggest thing that we can note, I can go through all of the charts. They're all pretty lackluster. Just look at the DOM here, okay? We've got, we don't have any news here at the bottom of the hour, do we? Don't we have inflation data later this week? Hold on a second. 10-year bond auction is today. That's probably our biggest thing going on. That's right. CPI on Thursday and PPI on Friday. So those are the biggest ongoing things. But the volatility now, the VIX is below 20 and the volatility is just completely dead. I mean, look at it. There's hardly... There have been moments here over in the E-mini where there are literally no changes. It looks frozen. I'm like, is my data working? it's bad. So the pre-market trade, it gets kind of sketch. They're very difficult. We're going to have to zoom in here on this chart because look, in 30 minutes, that's all of the movement that they've had in the E-mini. So we're definitely going to have to adjust our trading accordingly. And yeah, this is going to be difficult. I think that a lot of day traders that have only traded in the pandemic are going to be caught off guard a little bit by this. And this action is, I feel, the most frustrating for trading. So we'll see what happens here. That said, because we have a 10-year auction, I think that we might have some of our best opportunities over here in the treasury. I'm going to try and take it a little more seriously today. Yesterday I was feeling so sleepy, but I was feeling good in the beginning, but I kind of turned into screwing around. This morning, I'm feeling pretty good, at least pretty calm and alert. I do have a video coming out today. That's part of it. I made a video late last night, so I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm often nervous about videos, but I'm a little nervous about this video because we're talking about frauds again. And, anytime that you're doing that, you have the risk of retaliation and drama and what happens. And, of course, there's always the possibility that people will attack you. Man, I have such a nice spot there at 18.5. I don't know, though, if that's going to stick. So we're going to have to come in here and change something. Let's see here. Close outstanding orders when position is closed is gone. Oh, it's not there. And then do I have like a... Oh, that's right. Okay. So... Okay, well, 17. Uzi, that is what the video is about.
Uzi Knesset says saw that Raging Bull got nailed. Uzi Knesset says, I'm a Mensa certified stock trader, lol.
I don't really talk about him too much. It's mostly like the thumbnail and the beginning introduction, but the video is really about is how YouTube just allows this stuff to go through on their platform and they do absolutely nothing to police it. When people are making like obviously false claims.
Uzi Knesset says from a consumer perspective, fuck those ads got annoying.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you guys because, I don't have television, right? I mean, I can get like the local waves, but I don't pay for cable. What happened was like I got switched, I had been paying like you get, after you've been on it for years, they increase the amount that you pay. And then if you get on a new program, then you pay like, a quarter less. And I'm like, can you do something? It's too much. And normally they would do something, but that particular person, I guess it was just like trying to be really stingy or something. And so I said, fine, I'm not giving Comcast my money anymore. It's not worth it. So I stopped doing it and we only watch Netflix, and I've been happy with that decision. So I don't have television. But tell me, like on CNBC and stuff, did they have commercials like that on CNBC? Hey, Maxwell, how's it going? Because it seems to me that an ad like that would not be allowed on air, right? Uzi says he's been off TV for 2 years now. It seems to me that ads like that wouldn't be allowed on air. Now, of course, I know that there have been infomercials and scams on TV, but I would think that if you wanted to put a commercial for Raging Bull on CNBC, that CNBC would say you're making exaggerated and deceptive claims, and we're not going to run your ad, you know, along with all of the other regulations that they have to go through, where when you get on air and you talk about a stock, you have to divulge whether or not you are invested in that stock or you have a position and all of this other disclosure stuff, right? Like, and then over here on YouTube, it's like anybody can do whatever they want. And people are running this because it's wasn't just them. I mean, they were just the annoying one, right? They were just the annoying ones. But there's so many people doing this, and it seems like it's just like a real business scheme model that they have set up, where it doesn't matter how good your program is, you just have to put out enough advertising and you make enough money from that to, you know what I mean? Okay, so I'm looking at this. I don't really want to pick up 2 contracts. I'm trying to keep myself to 1 contract today. But over in the 10-year, I'm still really trying to play a market making kind of a situation. Like I'm having orders laying out there where I don't necessarily think that I'm going to get filled. So if they tick through me at 18 and 18.5, I might just immediately flip it back out at 18.5. But my hope is that they fill me at 18, I can get out at 17.5 and vice versa up there.
Uzi Knesset says I have a 13-year track record of not paying for trading education or gurus and shit, so I'm more in the eye roller boat when I see that shit.
Sure. But like the thing is, like, there's laws and regulations about this. If you claim that you are a wildly successful trader and you're basing your whole service off of your success, and then it turns out that you have consistently lost money in the market, that's illegal. I don't make performance claims. I'll tell you that I lost money this year, but I do make performance claims because I know that, like, if I'm doing well now, I might not do well in 6 months and vice versa. And I don't base the channel off of the performance, you know? And YouTube doesn't do anything, it doesn't care. So that's what the video is about. I kind of slam them. And I also slam them for, you know, there's been several instances where we've made reports and so forth and about very problematic channels, and YouTube doesn't do anything. I mean, there are channels in the Forex community that we dealt with recently, and I'm not going to name people, but I think you guys might remember what that was a couple of weeks ago. And this guy is like notorious in the Forex community for making all of these claims and not backing it up, and it's like a big freaking joke, like it total embarrassment, frankly. And YouTube is still out there. I don't get it. They need to do something about it.
Uzi Knesset says I wouldn't put you in the guru boat though. You're a guy who vlogs the tortuous experience of day trading.
Exactly. Please never call me a guru. I don't think that I think that the entire concept of a stock guru is like it shouldn't be a thing.
Winston's mom says, Raging Bull's image is built around the supposed trading success of its founders, Bishop and Bond. They go out of their way to falsely create larger-than-life personas as highly sought-after trading.
Yeah, but well, you can go and read the FTC complaint. The FTC complaint is saying that that's none of that persona is true.
G says athletes do the same for selling programs.
Okay.
Jeff Nato says shame on the investors falling for this crap. Demand brokerage statements to back up performance claims. That is how I vet all subs.
I mean, the crazy thing is, though, is like, how often do you actually see people post their performance like that? Like, one of the things that I find so weird. See, the only time I have ever seen like a guru or a stock person post their performance, it's either it's incomplete, so they will show like a record of 1 year and then not show their trading the next year. Okay, perfect. Wait. Oh, I had 2 there. Crap. That's okay. I can just I'm surprised that worked out as well as it did. I don't want to be long, but
Jeff Nato says that is why 99.9% PF subs do not filter through my process.
Don't buzz names, so I'm not gonna. In fact, if you go on to the video, because the thing is I talk the video that you can see that I post in an hour. We talk about that, and then I do go through a couple of people on YouTube that I really like, and the people that I really like on YouTube are people that have like well-known, notorious experience in the industry. And I can't tell you if they're making money like this year, but I know that they've made significant sums in the past, enough to, gain them some amount of reputation, right? So I do a little bit of name checking, show you all of the people that I like, but I'm sure that there are going to be people that are going to be like, oh yeah, and this YouTuber, they're really. I'm just going to delete those comments. Because there's so many people trying to promote themselves through this sort of thing, and I'm not going to play. Not going to play the game.
Uzi Knesset says the guy who holds his baby in his lap on stream after a day of FOMOing into silly trades, and admitting it, isn't the same as the guy promising you sports cars for a subscription fee lol.
I feel bad because lately, like past couple of weeks, the market has kind of gotten into this mode that hasn't been particularly favorable to me, has it? There was this time when it was like I couldn't lose. Now it hasn't been very favorable, and my response to it has been like, fuck it. You know what I mean? And I need to stop doing that. I need to just I need to keep it serious and practice just stopping and switching accounts. So that's why I'm trying to do that today. Trying to be a little bit more serious, but yeah, the volatility is so low. And you know what? The thing is, you think, oh, well, maybe it's just because it's December and there's not a lot of news this week and so forth. But you know what? This looks like the market that I learned on. This is the market that I know, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of it in the future. So I think that we best get used to it.
Uzi Knesset says your response to it has been typical for the average retail trader. That is what makes you unique.
You mean as in that, like, I come in, I do this, I'm not particularly amazing. What happens to me is pretty typical to what happens to other retail traders, and unlike everybody else, I'm just admit it and say what's going on and try harder, and that nobody else does that. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think part of it is, and I talk about this in the video too, but I think a lot of it has to do with why I made the channel in the first place, right? Because it was meant to be a video journal. And from my perspective, if I'm not honest with myself about how the trading is going, then it doesn't help me, does it? So, but that said, it's not like I don't think I'm an awful trader. I think I'm maybe slightly better than average. In fact, it's just that slightly better than average is not good enough. You know what I mean?
Uzi Knesset says you have a better understanding of what you do. I've always found that important to retail traders. They need to understand themselves as well as the market. Uzi Knesset says, and you facilitate that understanding. Vlad Stolyarov says, yes, I seen worse. Vlad Stolyarov says, joke.
Yeah, I gotcha. Along with, that's a name I haven't seen before. How are you? Yeah, so anyways, we got that video. It'll be coming out in an hour. And what else? There was something else I was going to say about it, but I don't even remember. I don't know. Anyways, I have to say, there really is a lot of good content out there. Like when I compare where retail trading is now to where it was when I really first started looking at stuff like this in like 2009, 2010, like the earlier days of Futures IO, back when it was Big Mike's forum and everything else. I think that there's so much better information, and I'm glad there's a lot more skepticism, because the thing that irked me when I first started out was that people would post all this stuff and it was like everybody just went along with it. Now you'll still see a lot of people that go along with it and just kind of believe everything that gets posted, but there are a lot of people that have picked up on this real, irritation that I have, and they have it as well, that people will make claims about what works and what doesn't work that don't line up with reality, and so people actually fight them on it, right? If we see content creators continue to make content and they're honest, so even if they're not making money, they continue forward and everybody works together, then we can generate some alpha in the long run, you just got to do the right thing. And the first right thing is you got to be honest with everybody about it. So it's good. It's just the thing that I think is wrong is the platforms themselves. Any Joe can come on, make a commercial, claim that they know everything about the markets, and they don't have to know anything. Like, I've seen situations where these gurus, all of the indicators that they're selling are things that they got from somebody else, or that they stole off of other forums, and there's no real education program. It's just like you talk to the guy and they are making money from nothing, and it's literally because of the ads and the discovery that they get through YouTube, and YouTube needs to put a stop to it. Trading journals on forums are fun. I'm going to make $100,000 with $1,000. Reddit is a new forum. Tesla $1,000 return, $500 worth of calls. Well, now the Reddit is an interesting thing because here's the thing. Whenever I've looked at people that have really truly extraordinary success in trading, okay, let's talk about Anthony again, right? Because I just think his story is so cool, right? He wanted to be a day trader. He was already a clerk, so he was already fully immersed in the world. But when he paid for all, he paid for all this stuff so that he could trade on the floor, which was not cheap. And then he couldn't even get a spot on the floor. And there was this whole thing that like where you were on the floor changed how likely you were to get even filled, like to get a trade, right? And he found that because of his situation, that he just couldn't get a spot. So he saw an opportunity with the electronic trading, and he started trading the Globex. And then he started to have success there, and he had a crazy amount of success doing that. And then the market kind of changed underneath of him. The robots came in and got involved, and then he wasn't making as much money when the robots got involved. And he lost some of it, and he had to realize that the market's changed before he lost it all, right? Every time that I see somebody that's had extraordinary success like that, there is a fundamental change in the markets, an inefficiency that they just happened to be able to be at the forefront of. Right? Well, we're seeing that right now, right? What is that change? The change is the explosion in accessibility to options. And because of that explosion to accessibility in options, there have been a lot of retail traders that have been going in on, way out of the money options and screwing up the market makers and the markets and doing all sorts of crazy stuff with it. And when you go on Wall Street Bets and they're posting these, like, people are posting real results of insane gains. And I'm not saying that they're going to get that all the time. And I bet you that if they continue doing that for, the next 10 years, that they'll lose it all. But for now, they have picked up on a fundamental, inefficiency in the market. That's why kind of the way that I look at it is we want to be honest with ourselves and just get as good at this as we can so that when a change like that happens, that we can take advantage of. And in this case, options is just not for me. I just don't have the capital or the risk profile to be doing some of the kind of things that these people are doing. But at some point, there will be an opportunity that we can take an advantage of, A good one yesterday, the California water futures, man. All you got to do is get access to that index and then start trading it. There's like no liquidity over there. You have to have a big account because it's like a $500 spread. But man, that's opportunity.
Vlad Stolyarov says constant expectations of market activity. Vlad Stolyarov says lots of FOMO of not making money every week.
Like, yeah.
Vlad Stolyarov says Snow IPO.
The activity in Snow the other day was, I thought, really quite obscene. Like, with a stock like Snow, you can't. How do you even value a stock like that? You know what I mean? Like, to know what the future earnings are and the growth and everything is incredibly difficult. And the activity that they've got going on there is just unreal. I sure wish that they would do it with Sumo. I'm gonna bet you. I'm hoping. I'm not gonna bet you, but I'm hoping. Because I really like that company. Like I've said before, man, I feel like I'm pumping a stock. I don't want to be like pumping a stock, but let's just say that my experiences with using that technology have been positive. And I'm wondering if it's going to be like a Neo thing. You know what I mean? Like Tesla was the big one, and people felt like that Tesla had already been played out. So they started to go and look at secondary electric vehicle plays. And I'm wondering if the same thing will happen with Snow, that they'll say, okay, like maybe Snow is too high, but here's another cloud services company that has kind of been ignored, and all of their results on their last earnings report were really good, and they have a lot of good growth prospects, so let's go and buy that. Of course, if that's what happens and it starts trading like Neo, I'll have to take profits, but I digress. Lots of FOMO of not making money every week. Well, the funny thing is that there are ways to trade the low volatility. You know, it's not the way that most retail players tend to try, but you can do it, and you're not going to make very many ticks, so then you just size up, right? And I remember people back when the volatility was low trading these kinds of strategies in e-minis and doing quite well with it. But the issue is that most of these people that are trading right now, they're new and they've never experienced this, so they don't have a clue what's coming, right? Like especially these options guys, right? If they continue to do like crazy out of the money option plays as the options volatility decreases, that strategy isn't going to be as effective. Is it worth it with micros due to commissions? I think so, so here's the thing, is that as a retail trader on the E-mini, maybe your commissions are $1, although now that they've changed some of the fees and things like that, it's quite a bit less. So now it's less than a tick. But on the E-mini, when you're trading, if your average winner is not more than a tick, then there's something wrong, right? The volatility of the E-mini is such that even if you're trading, up to 10 contracts on a micros, your net average profit per contract is going to be more than one tick, right? And that's where it would matter, is like if you were profitable, but your average profit per contract was one tick, then it would be a problem. And so the whole thing here is that like, it's not like commissions don't matter or anything. It's just that that's not what's going to be preventing you from being a successful trader, right? What's going to prevent you from being a successful trader is actually having an edge. So have an edge first. Have an edge first. Get to where you're consistently making money. Then start trading it live. You're making money and you've been going a year, you're still doing well. Then you can start to worry about things like what is your commissions. And hopefully by that point, you would be graduated up to a full E-mini contract, and then the commissions are a lot lower. Or if you're really that good, you go buy a seat.
Maxwell says I have an expectancy of $15 per contract per trade.
Oh, that's not bad. You're saying overall. But what is your average loser? That's the thing that I'm always the most interested in. What's your average loser? What's your average loser, and what's your average loser compared to your average winner? Yeah, this is the other thing. Like I always harp on the low R strategies, but when you get into the low volatility, those are just going to become more popular, right? Both around $100 per contract per trade. Oh, really? Wait, in a micro? Or is that with a full E-mini? No, okay, yeah. That sounds more like a full E-mini. I'm like, if you're trading 20 points, no, you're trading 40 points. No, that wouldn't make sense. You take 2 points. Okay. Fair. And then, so yeah, I gotcha. So you take 2 points, and then your average winner is like maybe 1 or 2 ticks more than your average loser. And so then when it all comes out, yeah, you come out with like 1 or 2 ticks average profit. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is that, man, I mean, with scalping, it's kind of easy to deceive yourself because, man, you'll see it run and you'll catch winners and you can see how extreme it can get, right? But then you look at like how difficult is it to like pass a combine every month? And the thing that people don't realize is that awesome winner that you caught, you don't catch that every day. And then when it gets into low volatility and it's kind of lackluster and you're just kind of bleeding a little bit every day, and then you hit the drawdown and that's the end of that, you know? What we need to focus on from here on out is just being really, really consistent with this. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but just kind of being there so that when the really big opportunities do happen, we can take advantage. Because we know that we've done pretty okay on that stuff, right? Big mistake. One mistake can totally ruin you, but man. So E-mini has on a 5-minute chart looks like a pretty good uptrend, but it's really just flattened off, hasn't it? Even after trading for years, when I see 10 points runner, but I took my profits at 2 points, it hurts. Oh man. Rizan Habib says I found 1.2R tends to be the sweet spot for scalping for me, anyways. No, I think that's a great spot. Like in my expectancy video, I recommend that if you're new, you're probably more likely to find a workable trade in the closer to 1.5 to 2 range with a probability that's just enough to make it work. But the next thing that I would go for, the next one that I think would be appropriate, is like equal risk reward, and you just want to have a really high win rate. Like equal risk reward, 70% win rate would be, that's sustainable. I can't. Oh, hold on a second. Anyways, 70% win rate. I haven't been able to find a setup that's that high of a win rate. I don't know how they do it. Don't know how they do it. Well, it's really interesting the way that they careened down there into the 17s area. But now the market maker is willing to hold it up on the higher end of this range. I don't necessarily see anything that suggests to me informed trading, but I don't know. Those bids seem awfully insistent. It was kind of cool that the way my plan worked, that I was able to get the one tick from 18 to 17.5, and then they came up and it filled me at 18.5. Mark LC, good morning. Good morning, guys. Lots of, we got a lot of people watching today. 41 viewers is a lot for this early in the session. 3,700 used as a pivot. Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting thing to watch, right? This is definitely the big question in my mind in the markets right now, is that 3,700 area, Let me pull up the chart here. On a longer term chart, you can kind of see they've kind of been like, it's definitely been like a spot that they've been trying to get to and had a hard time holding it. And I'm thinking that we might rotate around this for a while. Is kind of what I'm thinking. With great fame comes great responsibility. Yeah, I'm so famous, right? One of the cool things is that it is getting to the point where like the cross pollination between the community and people knowing each other and stuff is getting better. I think that's good because, like I said, nobody has it completely figured out. I think, for instance, my positioning model is pretty amazing, and I have some back-tested results that do suggest there's something to it. Although, interestingly enough, it works really great if I set my session to like my session. But when I try and do the extended or the regular session, I've had more trouble with it, and I'm going to need to work on that a bit. Plus, I haven't tested it on the treasuries, which is probably a better place for it to work, right? But it's really kind of more of a target area. Like, there's a lot of really random action around that spot. And in fact, it almost seems perfectly random. Much more than anything else that I've back tested. There's still a missing piece. There's still a piece that says that like there's a high probability of this move happening right now. Let's read some of these.
Mark LC says, when you backtest your strategies, are you backtesting existing studies or are you testing your own coded strategies?
Oh, no,
Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely always my own coded strategy. I'm still working on it, but I'm willing to show you guys how this one works. The thing is that it's based on an indicator that we have. If you go to speculatorseth.com, you can download it. 2-week trial, and then right now we're requiring the $10 a month elite subscription to continue using it, which I think is fair because some people will want you to just spend $2,000 or something. And no, this is just, you pay for it. You can go month to month. So maybe you spend $10 on it and decide it's not a thing, and then you can just stop, and that's fine. And that's why I'm kind of willing to show you the strategy. Is like, to even use it, you would have to have the indicator. And then you can take the indicator and backtest it and change up the strategy however you want. But the basic gist of it is that when you cross the line and there's an impulse in the middle there pushing it up, that's when it tries to take the trade. But you know what? I didn't even have it on. Should enable it. Have it on backtest. We're forward testing it now on Sim. Yep. Just a general question. Yeah. No. They're always ones that I've coded. And I do quite a bit of work to kind of verify. Like, I go through and look at all the entries and make sure that all the entries make sense and are correct. And then you run it on a sim account to confirm that it's taking the trades where it should and how it performs. If it takes a trade that I think is really, really dumb, then I come back and I'm like, okay, well, we might need to change this because this was a situation that it should have taken the trade and it took the opposite. And HF asks, what is backtesting? What I mean by backtesting is creating a programmatic strategy and running that programmatic strategy on historical data to see how it would have performed on that historical data. The only thing that works every time is order flipped. Wrong. Sorry. I have to disagree. There are times and situations where order flow can be very predictive, and there are times and situations where the order flow is almost completely useless. This is one of those spots where using order flow right now to try and get you a probabilistic setup on the direction of this thing is not really I don't have some order flow setup here that tells us which way the 10-year treasury is going to go. What I see right now is a market that is very much in market making mode, and they went down to the lows, but they decided to fool with people and that they wanted to go back up to the higher end of the range. Now, maybe there really is some informed trading pushing us up. I mean, the 30-year kind of pushed up hard there, didn't they? But why? To test your theories, right? If you think that you see a consistent pattern in the market, and you say, when this and this and this thing are all equal, it always goes this direction. You go and you code that up, you run it on the historical data, and you see if, at least historically, that's true. And about 99% of the time, you will find that it is either not true or that it's so much more nuanced than that, and that it's pretty difficult to make money on it. But yeah, the most difficult thing about order flow trading is that it will behave completely different depending on what kind of a market it is. And it is exceptionally difficult to know what kind of market it is ahead of time. The market maker might know, but you don't. Yeah.
Tommy Lorson says order flow works best around low volume, high volume note.
Yeah, I think so. Not necessarily when it's like hyper crazy, but if we've had a big piece of news and it's moving around a lot, and then the market's digesting it and you're getting a lot of movement, and then that's where order flow can be really effective. Yeah. At least that's where I always tend to catch my really good trades. Now, order flow is really essential in this slow action too. It's just that that's kind of only a part. Like if you're just trading one contract like I am, and you kind of need to make a directional call, it's super hard to do that, right? Especially trying to run as tight of a stop as I am. They're just... Well, we'll see what they do. I don't know if they're just pushing the range or if these guys are going to buy this back up again today. I will say I haven't seen a whole lot of big orders today. It will work for a while, but not for long. Well, so kind of depends on your strategy, right? I think especially depending on a lot of it depends on what your back test looks like, right? Like if you go and you do a back test and you have a 60% win rate. No, let's do it this way. Let's say that you go in, it's a 70% win rate. The risk reward is equal, and it's taking like 15 trades a day, and you run that over 4 years, and it's really consistent and it has a really high Sharpe ratio. I would feel pretty confident about trading that live and it continuing to work. There's got to be a real inefficiency in the market for that to work out. But usually what happens is we go in and we do the back test, and you get a profit factor of 1.1, and you've overfit it, so it's only taking like a trade every other day, and you only run it on 1 year's worth of data, and so you don't necessarily understand what it is about that particular market action that has allowed it to be successful, and so on and so forth. Gary says, oops, a hiccup in the vaccine by Pfizer. Are you talking about the allergic reaction? That is a thing. I'd say the E-mini isn't really reacted to that. But look, the treasuries are still trying to squeeze them. Do you think the EU session is better for order flow because there are less algos? Oh, you're asking a good question, G. I'm going to say probably not, because I know it seems like there's less algos, but like there's a lot less activity overall, and there still are algorithms out there, and it kind of, because there's less overall trade, it actually kind of makes them more powerful in the overnight session. Now there's some real edge there, and especially if you're doing that Asian session, or you're just holding trades for multiple days, because the E-mini in particular tends to move more in the overnight session than in the regular session, right? But overall, I think that you're going to have a better chance of getting something when you're trading in the active time period, which is right now. So, or, especially after the E-mini opens. Okay. Fine. You say the markets are climbing the wall of worry. The guys at Axios say the bund is one of the best for order flow trading. Yeah, sure. Well, and you would want to trade the bund during the time period that it's the most active. You know what I mean? But I'm getting at, like, if you're gonna trade the 10-year treasury in during the European session when there's hardly any volume, like, honestly, the order flow trading is looking at data. Really, there's a lot of data that you are parsing out in your mind, and the more data that the market is crunching at the time, the better your chances are going to be. Think of it this way, right? It's the market is a function. The input of that function is information. It's things that Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. Anyways, it's a function, and what you're passing into the function is the results of the last iteration of the function, which was the last price, and the orders that came out. You're going to pass in the last price and all of the new information that you have gained, and then you take that into oh geez. I'm losing my train of thought here, guys. The market is a function. The input of that function, you're going to take the last price, all of the new information that we have. You take all that new information, you submit orders with it, and then the exchange takes out all of their information, it matches the orders up, and it returns back to you the current price and all of the fills, right? So the more information that you're crunching in at the time, the more price is going to move, right? Because if time has taken place, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to run the function again. Because if no orders have gone through, then you're not doing anything, right? It's the information. Trading is all about information. That's why your best opportunities are going to be the times when there's the most information, right? It's like literally physics. Information is where that energy is like generated at the quantum level that allows you to move it. Wow, yeah. Chris says you always feel like, but that's the whole thing, is the people that are going to be successful at this are going to be the people that just keep going for a really long time. I say you want to get in, you want to know as much about the markets as you can, and you want to identify asymmetrical information trading opportunities. And at some point, if you've really been doing your work, you will see an asymmetrical opportunity and you'll be able to take advantage of it because you were prepared. And other people weren't. They're new and they don't know as much as you and so forth, right? Well, now the treasuries are definitely kind of starting to give us this look like they're gonna make a more significant move here, but I don't know. Yeah, that looks too stable, so. Thank you for that information. Now explain why the sky is blue. Okay, well, the sky is blue primarily because of the molecules in the atmosphere and the way that light reflects off of those particular molecules. Man. The hell? This thing is like actively trying to frustrate me, isn't it?
Rizwan Habib says, can't time be part of the function too for certain strategies? For example, high momentum approaches.
Well, so I'm not saying that you don't want to incorporate time into your automated strategy or anything else like that. But I'm just saying that time is not a fundamental, like time doesn't necessarily generate information. Time is just the substrate that information works against, right? So the reason that we tend to do things by time is just because it's a useful aggregation for us to understand things, but it's not actually the thing you're looking at.
G says TPO lovers will hate you, slightly smiling face.
Well, it's time. There's a reason why not very many people use TPO anymore. They all moved over to volume profile.
Rizwan Habib says makes sense.
Because what is the thing that requires you a new iteration, new information, new
Chris
orders?
Egan says, what's your opinion on TPO? I am reading Mind of Markets ATM.
So I think that Mind Over Markets is a really great book to understand the way that markets work and function, and the kind of like the type of markets that are out there. But I have not seen a setup based primarily on time price opportunity that has a positive historical expectancy. I have not seen it. I've seen a lot of people trading that and saying that they've made money, but I haven't seen like some back-tested setup. Like, this is the thing is, I'm not I didn't work at an algo firm. I worked at a bank, and I knew a little bit about what the bank was doing.
Gary Rich says if you don't factor time and time analysis, you are very behind.
And they, when the algorithms that they had, there was a lot of like portfolio level stuff, like this sector is up and this sector is down, and what you want to do in these situations. There was a lot of market making type stuff to get the best spot in the queue and everything else. But all of this stuff about like that you talk about in retail trading, where it's like if X thing happens, then there's a 60% probability that it's going to continue to move up, or whatever the setup is. I never saw those. In fact, the traders that I talked to like explicitly didn't know that stuff. It was kind of weird. I remember specifically one person saying, "Oh yeah, there's this guy over here. He really believes in volume profile. That might be something worth looking into, but I don't know it." And like he was the only guy on the floor that knew it. Like what? But I didn't know what volume profile was at that time either, really. So if you don't factor time and time analysis, you're very behind. No. I mean, so like again, especially when it's like a slow market like this, I don't think that the time necessarily matters. I think that time just tends to have a correlation. Like there tends to be a certain amount of activity within a certain time, right? And certainly you cannot measure how active a market is being without doing a per time type of a metric. But I'm just saying the reason that the next iteration of the market takes place, if we were looking at this from a mathematical perspective, it doesn't happen because of time. If there's like no new orders or no new information generated during that time period, then there's no reason to run the function.
Chris Egan says you should try a Brian Watt chart.
I've seen, I've kind of looked at that, but man, if they slam this all the way back down, obviously they've made me take -4 here twice in a row. Gotta be fucking kidding me, man. How did I get it so bad? And why were they so willing to come? Like, they came back so easily. So frustrating, man. Well, that means we failed over here in the treasury.
HF says no buyers building. Gary Rich says okay, show me the papers which says time is not a factor in trading. I guess I'm seriously stupid.
Okay, so let's say that an hour has gone by and nobody has submitted orders into the market. Do you think that price will change during that time? And let me try and put it a different way. You can't come in here and say the F of the current price,
says, no, I don't want your theory on time.
T.
I want to see the university papers which proves you theory.
Okay. This isn't a university level sort of a thing. This is more of a even understanding thing. Oh, where did it just freaking go? I'll have to open it back up again. There it went. Okay. Let me do it in yellow. Okay. There's no function here where you can put in the current price and the amount of time in the future that you want to be able to see, and it will output to you the price in the future. It doesn't exist. It's like that's logically, when we look at the way that the market works, that makes absolutely zero sense, does it? this function doesn't exist. Some people want to think that the market works. That's like a naive view of the markets. It doesn't work this way. Okay, what is the function? The function is the current price plus all of the new information, which I'm going to simplify down to say that people process that information and then submit it to the market as new orders. Okay, so you're going to take the last price and all of the new orders that are going to be submitted into the market, and that is going to give you out a new price, and fills. Okay, what should we call it? Matches. We can just call it matches. Okay, well, that's the function. So what's the real, when do you run the function? When do you, okay, this price will get input into the next iteration of the function. When do you run the function again? When you have more information. See? Okay, here they go. Little bit of a sell on the open. Okay, Gary. I mean, the thing is that I've been reading scholarly articles, and that's part of how they look at it. I mean, it's like not even a scholarly thing. Like, that's the way that the exchange matching mechanism works. If that doesn't get new orders processed in, then that doesn't match any orders and nothing changes. I'm not quite sure what it is that you believe about markets that makes you think that what I just said can't be true or something, or what it upsets about your worldview. But that's like the way that the exchange works. The exchange doesn't come in and say, well, it's been 5 minutes, so we need to change price because of this. No. It requires orders to do it. Okay. Well, it's relatively soft and quiet open as well, which is not surprising, but... NQ tanking. You think this is going to be like they sell it, and then the magical money printing machine turns on and it just goes in a straight line again? I don't know. My tendency is to want to go with the momentum and just sell it here, but knowing the kind of market that we appear to be in, that's not going to be such a great play. Well, let's let it do its thing. The thing is it's like not even very much volume. Say long-term support below. Well, I need to keep Twitter up here. Chemical wall hits massive 2.5 billion ramp dead ahead if VIX drops below 20. Now they're saying that if that VIX goes down, that it would enable more buying, I suppose. Donald Trump tweeting about how there's a rigged election. There's massive evidence of widespread fraud in 4 states mentioned in the Texas suit. Just look at all the tapes and affidavits. Okay. So they're getting it to swoon there a little. Okay. Well, that was about 2,000 contracts sell. See if we get the gamma start changing here. Sorry, the delta. Did I say gamma? Okay, so they're clawing their way back to the open. Trading on a laptop sounds like an engine. What do you mean? I don't get why so many people insist on trading on a laptop, but I guess people these days just want to have the flexibility of a laptop. YouTube to delete content that undermines the 2020 US election results. Okay. That's bad. It's bad for this treasury trade, that was. Okay, getting something in the E-mini here. Looks like they're gonna go for it. Nope, not that time. So very, very close though. Okay. So there they went. I've noticed that when you get like this first few waves in the E-mini, when you break the new high, you don't necessarily see a lot of stops. But if it continues through for, another point or two, then you start to see a lot of people bailing. Donald Trump tweeting that the stock market is at a new all-time high. Do the algos still buy that one? Okay, well, still seeing things making sense up until around 37.12. And then based on current positioning, 37.50, let's say 50, let's call it 15. It's 14 and a half, but by the time they get up there, it's not going to be in the same spot. Putin orders Russian government to contain food price inflation. I have requested through our Attorney General that Tennessee join the lawsuit filed by Texas. The integrity of our elections must be upheld. Must be protected to preserve our republic. The Market Ear says sizzling hot IPOs. Both Airbnb and DoorDash have increased their IPO price ranges recently. Trading is about to commence in both Roblox. What? That's a stock. It's another one hitting the IPO market soon, given the melt up in names like Snowflake, 300% since the debut in September, and the looks of the IPO, ETF IPO. Everybody ready to go public is surely tempted. Let's see what happens to the world's hot IPOs after the vaccine rollout. Yeah. Well, and not only that, but there was this whole thing, like there was the Snow IPO, and then, there was a little bit of a downturn, and some of those IPOs took it on the nose during that time. At least the ones that I've been, like Sumo Logic is the one I've been watching, got hit pretty hard. Okay, well, a little bit of a pullback, but plenty of volume. Treasury's not really them saying that they're going to go make new lows, but we're getting it. So price turned down just a tad, but I'm not seeing the volume follow it quite yet. I am, however, seeing some shuffling in the positions. Like, it looks like the buyers actually took a decent amount of profits when they broke above the open. It's such small amounts here that we could be reading like way more into it than is really there, but it did happen. The buyers' inventory on my chart decreased. And I think that in the given situation, that's really the only way that it could have happened. Or somebody was going short up there, of course. JP Morgan says to sell calls on Pfizer. Oh, really? A little bit of a decrease in cumulative delta, but well within the range. Well within tolerance, I guess. Wow, Roku is up 360 since March 16th? Really?
Uzi Knesset says so. For 4 years the left gets to question the integrity of the election and the right gets shut out almost immediately for doing the same? LMAO.
I don't know. When the left was questioning the results of the election, I felt like it was a very different thing. Like, I remember hearing a lot of they've gerrymandered it and Donald Trump is going to do this something crazy or try and steal the election or whatever. It wasn't this thing where it was like all of these lawsuits being put out and claims being made of specific fraud. I kind of referenced that in my video this morning, though. I think it's telling that YouTube is so aggressive at policing certain kinds of political content. But then when there's content out on their platform that like literally defrauds people, they look the other way, or they say, well, I have to give people the benefit of the doubt and this and that. When the reality should be that if somebody is making a performance claim without backing it up with complete evidence, that should be removed right there. So basically, the left has platforms and access to their own thoughts, and the right is disallowed. Well, there's things that the left will say that gets disallowed too, though. Okay, these guys, the Chapo Trap House guys, they're saying all sorts of crazy stuff, and it gets removed. And let me say another thing. When I go on the Donald these days, and there will be a story that like for instance, yesterday the Supreme Court turned down a certain challenge or refused to pick it up or something like that. And that's why, and so now we've got this thing with the states coming in and that forces the Supreme Court to pick it up, right? But before that happened, when I was going in and reading there about all of these people were saying, oh, okay, so the courts have failed to do their jobs. So now they were making threats of violence, essentially. And I was seeing a lot of posts about that. And I would always expect there to be a certain number of people like posting stuff like that to make them look bad. But this time it was widespread and highly upvoted. And so I think that it's entirely... How do I say this? I think that platforms are right to be concerned about what might come out of their platforms because of this. And they don't want to have a situation where some sort of a terrorist attack happens and they trace it back to some crazy guy posting political opinions on YouTube. You know what I mean? Now, that said, if you're, the thing that's not, irks me is that it's like, okay, here's this video of people counting ballots midnight after they said that they weren't going to do it. And they'll come in and say, no, that's been debunked, and then say you can't post that. It really hasn't been debunked, in my opinion. You want terrorist attacks and violence, so you're not letting them have an outlet. That, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I mean, the way that the social media thing is going right now is not. It can't go on like this forever. If people think that you're just going to completely shut down one side of the argument and then they're just going to go away, they don't understand people, man. This just has like some nerd that really has no experience with people thinking that he's smarter than everybody else and that he's going to get surprised, Hmm. House passes the ND National Defense Authorization Act with a veto-proof majority in the face of Trump threats. He's going to veto it, and I think that they're going to overrule him. This is a problem for Republicans because they pass it with a veto-proof majority. They're not going to be able, like these hardliners on the Republican side, like the real populists. You're not going to be able to convince them that you're really on their side after that. That hasn't happened in a while. Oh man, 35 plus bodies and billions of dollars in property damage isn't enough to corral the left. I mean, has there been content on YouTube related to that should be taken down that we can name out specifically? Okay, no, that's fair. It was he saying that these people openly plan their stuff on Twitter. You're 100% right. Antifa puts all this stuff on Twitter, and it's like organizing violence on Twitter, and Twitter doesn't do anything about it. They look the other way. And Twitter is just, their behavior through these things is just absolutely abhorrent, in my opinion. Rizwan says neither side wants to compromise or work together. Well, no, I like... If you utter the words Illuminati, you get kicked off the internet and blacklisted from finance. Dude, no, really? That's a little extreme. People have been blacklisted from finance. I'm sure that the InfoWar guys have had some issues, but that's a way more complicated than that. Here's the thing, Rizwan. I'm having a hard time thinking of another way around scenario at the current time, like current events that's going on. So we're just going to have to talk about it from one side. But the things that the Democrats want to get right now are things that the Republicans are absolutely philosophically diametrically opposed to. It's not just like, oh, I don't want to go along with it because I'm not getting my way, and so I'm just going to be stubborn and not let anything pass. That's not the situation right now. That's not the way that Republicans think about it. The way that Republicans think about it is, if the Democrats have their way, my entire way of life will be over as we know it. We will become a communist country, and it will be the end of Western civilization. That's what Republicans think. And you know what? They have good reasons to think these things, because there really is a strong communist kind of bent to some of the things that the Democrats are trying to do. Okay, so I really can't sit down and say that it's not unjustified. So when you come into these things and they say, oh, well, we want, an X trillion dollar bill and we want to give it all to Democrat states, and then the Republicans say no, and you turn around and you say, see, the Republicans are being too difficult. It's like, deal with it. They're never going to go along with that. You can shame them all that you want, but the simple fact of the matter is that they're asking the Republicans to do something that is explicitly against their interests and against everything that Republicans believe in. If the Republicans gave in or compromised on this thing, then it would be the end of the party as they know it. They wouldn't have any credibility with their voters anymore, because the voters will know that the Republicans will just give the Democrats any money that they ask for. You know what I mean? So, like, this whole thing about compromise is kind of, okay, We're getting wholesale inventories. So hold on, I'm not getting them over here. So Bank of Canada interest rate decision, obviously no change. Jolt's job openings 6.652 versus 6.3 million, so slightly better than expected. Rezan says, but that's down to compromise. I was mentioning at the end of the day, those are extreme policies. No, like it's really not down to compromise though. Like it's like Rizwan, if I came to you and I said, okay, I think that we should kill you. And then you come in and you say, well, hold on, maybe we can compromise. And we say, okay, we can compromise. We kill you and we'll give your family like $1,000. Are you ever going to agree to that? Like, you get what I'm saying? Their ask is not something that can be compromised on. A compromise would be like, here's something that you guys really want, and here's something that we really want, and we'll get this thing for this thing, and everything will kind of come in, and there's still kind of a balance of power. And in the end, even though not everybody gets exactly what they want, somebody still gets something through it. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening is they're asking Republicans to make concessions that Republicans believe would be like the end for them. Things that no rational person would compromise given what they believe. Can I now I'll give you like my real opinion here is that the other side of this is that Democrats have been playing politics with your money, man. There is no reason that they couldn't have made a deal 6 months ago. Like, the deal that they're talking about right now is less than some of the options that Donald Trump had presented to them. The only reason that they didn't pass it was because they didn't want Donald Trump to have a stimulus bill going into the election. And we've now had like 3 people, including Nancy Pelosi herself, that have pretty much straight up said that the only reason they didn't cut a deal was because they didn't want Donald Trump to be able to say he had one for the election. Huh? Where's people talking about that? Rizwan says there's always fighting, but what is happening is that the radical elements have been taking over. Yes, but the issue is that when the radical elements take over, the response shouldn't be that one side should give in to the other side's radical demands. Right? If you look at this, or I mean, like let's look back at the things that they're arguing about. Let's look beyond the stimulus. Man, we got a pretty good buy there, but it looks like it's falling apart. Look beyond the stimulus. Okay, they want to have complete college debt forgiveness. You expect that this is something that this is a moderate proposal that Republicans should compromise on? They want to have free health care for illegal immigrants? You think this is a moderate proposal that Republicans should compromise on? You know? It's like... And every time that I look at this, it's like every little thing that they're proposing is insane. In my opinion. So that was a pretty bearish excursion there. They're holding it okay. Anyways, so then the question that I would ask then is what is the thing that Republicans should be compromising on here? It's like probably the most moderate thing that you could talk about is providing more funds for individual states to shore up their balance sheets. But here is an even bigger issue, because now you're asking Republicans to do something that is like explicitly against their monetary interests. I really don't think that you're ever going to get the Republicans to give Democrats a meaningful amount of money on that, because, you know, they've been saying for years and years, oh, the Democrats are underfunding their pensions and their social programs, and we're all going to have to pay for it. And then the situation comes and happens, and we people just expect them to write a blank check. Like, no. They're not going to do that. They're going to let them fail and hold it over their heads for the next 50 years. No, let him post that. How did it let you post that link? I guess you're special. You must be, because know that politics play an integral part in trading. It does. Because why is all of this relevant? All of this is relevant because the market wants a stimulus bill, and it's going to be pretty difficult to get a stimulus bill, isn't it? Although things did sound like they were getting better yesterday, right? Like McConnell was presenting his own plan, but then he said, oh, I'll go along with the bipartisan plan or something like that. I don't know, though. There's even some question about if they actually have the votes in Congress to pass that one. EU expected to step up no deal preparations. That's not positive. Okay, McConnell is saying that Democrats are moving goalposts. We are still looking for a way forward, he said, is the headline that people are hearing, though. He didn't answer when I asked what that way forward might be. Well, that's not particularly positive, is it? The market's not really reacting to that one. Now it's hitting all the squawks. Defense officials hold briefing on strategy for distributing COVID-19 vaccines. I tried reading that Ray Dalio link earlier, but can I tell you one thing that always irks me is when people are saying, oh, okay, well, there's this historical pattern and we're at this spot in the stage, and that means that this bad thing is going to happen next. Like, have you ever seen one of those where they come in and they say, oh, but this means that this next stage is like the stage of greatest prosperity and so on and so forth? You never see that one, do you? I think you have a better chance of predicting the future by just looking at the current circumstances and where things are going, rather than trying to use some past pattern. Okay, so they kind of went down and they broke a new low by a tick and bounced back a little bit. So still not really getting reactions. Pierre says going nowhere. I don't know. I mean, this thing kind of looks like it's ready to bust down, don't you think? The delta ended up being down after all that. Like, they washed him out for sure. So that takes us out of this position. Nope, not quite. If I can be so lucky, I'll try, but we're going to have to probably stop out. Yep. I should just change this to always be 2 to 1. Oh. Well, they touching the stop out line. Haven't been paying attention to my treasures over here. Should have been out on that last contract, huh? Wow, okay, this is just like going like cray. Were we gonna like give up that whole move from yesterday? Ooh, this is tough. 87.50 is one spot. So let's watch. I don't want to lose more than that. Focus. Pfizer shots for the Defense Department may arrive next week, says source. I don't know. That's a pretty aggressive sell. It's one of the more aggressive sells we've seen lately. Probably about on a par with some of the ones that we've seen, but we haven't seen one this big in the regular trading hours. No, we have not. So how far can it go? When you look at the delta, though, like, whoosh, that was like 10,000 contracts short. I'm trying to think. This is one of those things where it's like, this is where you got to backtest stuff, because like, how often is it that you get a negative move like that and it turns into a trend downtown day versus the days where they save it and it ends up being no big deal, you know? Because at the moment that I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, this is just going to keep going down all day now. But then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, but then I would be saying to myself, oh yeah, but they'll just dig it out of the hole like they always do. I don't know which is more common or how that's happened. Would say that Jake Sherman's, I probably should have, did I hold on to that after the Jake Sherman thing? I probably should have gotten out right when I read that. I guess it's okay, we flip around, but At every turn, they have delayed, deflected, moved the goalposts, and made the huge number of places where Congress agrees into a hostage of the few places we do not. Huh. Okay, well, I made an okay bounce. Note, though, that even though we've got this, like, oh, how many ticks has it been here? Been about 16, 17 ticks back up. But look, the delta is still at the lows. So, Stock slump after McConnell slams Schumer COVID relief rejection, says zero hedge. I think that's a pretty fair fair theory for why we moved down. The question is it enough for stocks to continue to sell all day? Nah, they're not green on the day until 3709. Maybe based off of the extended session, but is my risk reward that I'm looking for here today just too much? Because I've gotten positive like 16 ticks out of both of these, haven't I? Yeah. I got 17 on one and 29 on the other. If I had just set it at 16, then I would have gone, how's it going? So I guess it's going okay. You don't think it will go lower? Well, my readings are still okay for sale. Now, hold on. Where's our levels over here? For them to not have another wave down, that means that they really have to dismiss and ignore what's going on. But I don't say that as like that's unlikely to happen sort of a thing. Because you think about it, Mitch McConnell saying some negative things about the stimulus bill this morning is just kind of run-of-the-mill news, and it isn't necessarily the end of the world. So they totally could, dismiss and just kind of get over it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, they may just be about to confirm a pivot here, so hold on. Hold your horses. It's awfully close. Nah, I don't think that they're going to make it this far. Okay, Treasury ticking up there. Okay, that's what you needed for it to flip down. And now, of course, as soon as they do it, there's buyers fighting back on it. Interesting. Well, they did make a new pivot. I didn't quite see the battle that I normally see over those spots, so there is some signs of informed trading here in the E-mini. Some market selling through the market maker, but the market makers aren't pulling it, so hello. Hi. Oh, don't lick the mirror. That my son is licking the window over there. Okay. And they cancel that out almost immediately. Buy the dip, I guess. MP saying that those must have not watched the other videos on my channel. Well, the issue I'm getting now is that even though we've definitely got some order flow and positioning, switching things to long, the chances of me getting a good long out of this is really uncertain. If we were able to go and break a new high, then I think that they could probably make some meaningful moves higher, but I'm not so sure. It seems like these markets are determined to go against me no matter what I do today. And Tate was looking for too long of a target, probably. Say volatility got slapped. Well, Jumbo said that day trading is not possible. We should be trading the 20 to 60 day period. Well, let me just say that the shorter of a time frame that you're talking about, the more difficult it is to be successful trading. But, you know, to trade those higher time frames, you're going to have a big account. So it's not possible. It's just, it's zero sum, right? So you've got to be really, really good. That means you're going to have a very sophisticated analysis, right? Okay, here comes the gasoline numbers. HF says nice work. So did you watch the video? You liked the video itself? I was a little nervous about it still. Okay, cool. Well, thank you then. Oh man, is this really happening to me? Hmm. Making somebody in Discord making a claim that's not, you don't have anything to back that up. Let's see what he says. Let's see if I can convince him. I don't think that I'm going to. Boy. He wants to be banned, doesn't he? Man. And then they go down for it anyways. It looks like a big stop on. Well, how much did I get off of that last one? I only got 4 in my favor on that one. Well, I'm sure that there's something random to my, because I'm not really intentionally taking like entries that I don't expect it to go against me a lot, you know? I'm trying to make a bigger play on the momentum and the direction, but you know, it's not really working out for me 3 times in a row. That's really kind of frustrating. Okay, well, that's a pretty good excursion. I don't want to. I should be using this one. This guy, when people do this, it pisses me off. Okay. If you don't have actual verifiable stats or results to support a particular theory, don't go around telling people that it has edge, because you don't actually know. We should shut up and channel traders without edge, nothing to lose. Right? Well, did you guys hear what we're arguing about? He's saying that a Fibonacci level has a positive expectancy, is what he's saying. I haven't. That's not one that I've tested recently, but I know that there's been studies on this, and I'm pretty sure that it's not. No, sorry, I hit the mute button. Oh, yes. This is all in Discord. This is going on to Discord. That's in the video description in the Equity Indexes channel. Oh, here we go. Yep. Now he's like, oh, just add me and do all of these things. Yeah, no thanks. Okay, well, this one went 5 ticks against me. It's just like thinking about it. It's just like what we were talking about earlier, man. It is like, and I think maybe when you start trading, maybe everybody does it to some extent, right? It's like the ego is so big that you're just can't necessarily accept to yourself you don't know something. And it's interesting to see the arguments that they push up, and it tends to be the same thing. Like if I come in and I say, okay, you think that Fibonacci levels work, but what if I told you that it doesn't tell you anything, that the behavior at those levels is almost completely random, and that you have no real probability in either direction of making money, and that it's literally noise. And then his argument is, well, because it makes sense, that, it has an edge to it. I was like, okay, just because it fooled you doesn't mean that it actually works, right? To know that it actually works, you either need to have, to truly know that it works, you should have a track record where you say, this is where we traded just this thing and this is how it worked out, right? But usually you don't necessarily have that. So then you could say, here's a back test where you're trading just a setup, and this is what the historical expectancy of this specific setup is. And you can't do that. And it's like you do everything they can to avoid admitting that they don't actually know. But this guy, I think, was trying to pull a longer game here because he was like starting to promote himself and everything. It's like, okay. You can attack me. I'm doing pretty shitty today. But that doesn't mean that your setup has a positive expectancy. You know? He's still in that one. The NQ chart looks very different from the ES chart. The NQ chart kept going. Bouncing back up. The ES chart, maybe not. They're taking on a lot of longs on this last bar, by the way. P&L tells you nothing. Ask for their order book and they'll tell you how they trade and if they're profitable. Why do you say that, live action? You just saying that somebody could like fake a record or something? I mean, I don't know if it was particularly pertinent to that particular discussion that we were having with them. It was like, there was one of the points that I made to him was, it was like, you know, like if the setup actually had stats to back it up, you wouldn't be arguing with me like this, right? You would just say, oh yeah, sure, here's when I back tested this in NinjaTrader and here's how that setup worked out and that's why I'm trading it, right? Or here's this study that I read that shows what it is, or whatever the case is. The reality is that he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He didn't realize that he doesn't know. And when it's pointed out to him, his ego was too big for him to accept that he doesn't actually know. Because I don't know. I haven't tested it. I could make a guess about how it's going to work based off of other things that I've back tested like that. And I'm going to guess that it's probably pretty random, and that if it has any efficacy at all, that it's going to be really spotty. That's always tends to be how it is. But you know, you can't even do that. So like I'll tell you, like our model that we use for positioning, okay? We're developing a track record for it. It has a pretty good ability to tell you where things are going to stop and turn around when you get like a real stop run, like, you know, because of news or whatever the thing is. But I've gone back and I've done some back testing on it. And particularly this past year, it does have a positive expectancy and it's quite consistent. The year before that, it still makes money. It's not nearly as consistent as I would like, but it still makes money. I haven't been able to back test further than that. We've been forward testing it, but didn't take a trade today, unless maybe it took one when I didn't have it turned on. Sample size of 100 at a minimum. Now, I think that it took like 500 or something like that. Anyways, so it has potentially some edge to it. but we're still testing it out. We're still proving it. But I can at least give you a little bit of evidence, right? But then you say, okay, what about this setup? But doesn't work. Like, oh my gosh, can I show you one? I'll show you guys one. I'll share one with you. This one's it's kind of bizarre. Was it this one? No, hold on. What was the one that was like the most? Yeah, it was this one right here. So that one took 2,915 trades over the course of a year using a volume weighted moving average. I think I can run it on, oh, you need tick replay? Nah, let's not run it then. Anyways. P, and it doesn't say what their stop was, how many trades they take, etc. So let me explain the edge that we're talking about with our positioning model. So do you see I have a short in the E-mini right now? And if you look at the DOM carefully, you will see that the price 3,700 and a quarter is red. So that is what we call my average cost basis, right? Now, if it moved against me and I added another contract at 3702 and a quarter, right? Then my average price would be 3701 and a quarter, right? Or we're calling that the cost basis of my inventory. Inventory meaning currently on positions, right? So what my model is doing is it's looking at all of the orders that come through and all of the limit orders in particular. And based on some rules about when they take profits and so forth, what their average cost basis is at any one given time, right? That's what it's doing. So then you get this thing over here. So this blue line right here is the average buy position, and this orange line is the average sell position. You can tell, since we're still below the average sell position, this is like, like what I have right now. I'm short at 37 and a quarter, and I have a few ticks in profit. So I'm feeling fairly comfortable right now, right? The seller, I'll zoom in a little bit. The seller is in charge right now, right? Now, if we come back over to here, say I had two contracts on right now and I took profits on this one. Okay. So I made $10 in profit. Then these numbers over here on the left side would change, right? My break even would then be up at 3702.25 because I took some profits on it, right? And I could do that a bunch of times. I could take I buy another one here and sell another one here, and that just kind of moves that further and further back. So that's what the dotted line is on my model. So you can see here the blue dotted line. That's like for the buyers who were making money up in here. How far does it have to go that based on the current number of contracts that they have on, that they basically break even on the day, right? And you can see that there's going to be a tendency to go and touch that price and go through it a little bit and then snap back off of a fast move. Now, if it's a trend day, then they're going to get below that and they're going to stay below it. So I wouldn't necessarily treat that as like, okay, when it gets to that line, always try and reverse it. I've tried doing that, and it's kind of difficult because when you get to these lines in particular, there's like a lot of movement, which means that they're really better as profit-taking zones rather than entries. Okay. But it tells us a few things about the market, right? It tells us that sellers are in control right now. It's because it's kind of hard to look at this chart and say what the true state is, right? Well, the sellers definitely had something here, and then it reversed, and now who's really in charge? I don't really know. Well, and what we can say is that the sellers are still the ones that are making money up until about 3704. Did that make sense, Graphs Fed? So that's how I trade it. Now that said, I did awful today, so what you gonna do? Wow, by the way, is the I thought that oh, that's right, I only made 62 on that one. Okay, cool. I've done terrible today, and I was trying hard. I'm wondering about this treasury though, like they're back up in a spot where I could think about selling it. So the reason I'm thinking that is because when we look here in the 10-year treasury, look, there's that stop out zone at 20.5, right? And you can see how effectively it seems to hold to it in the treasury, right? Unless, of course, the market decides to tank again, and then it's just going to run and run. And we're going back to the argument that we were having, right? So this is where I was saying this is really hard to test because it's expensive. It's expensive. You can see I'm been back testing a bunch of different ways of trading it, but the way that I have it set up for my current strategy that I'm running it right now, it's that one. It'll load up for us. Yeah, those are the stats on it over here. Those are the stats on it. So if you're getting a breakout of those lines, you take it with 2-to-1 risk, you win about 40% of the time. Have you ever rolled back a naked chart and tried trading bar by bar off structure, Mayim? Well, so live action, whenever I try and look at something like that, I'm always trying to program it up. Like, because I just know that when that's something that is just dependent on me, that's a pretty massive variable in there, right? Maybe my way of reading the order flow is really, really effective, and I'm just stupid, you know? Like, who's to say? So I'm always going to prefer to backtest something. But and I did have some back tests that were better. I had this one that's really, really expensive, and there was a problem with it, but I got it to come out with a back test of a profit factor of over 2. And I've had some be over 2. But I think this strategy right here, it takes about 479 to be exact, 479 trades over the course of a year with a Sharpe ratio of 1.18 and a profit factor of 1.27 is probably the best strategy that I've made. Is that spectacular? No, it's not. So I continue to backtest things, but the reason why I was pointing that out is because I've tried backtesting a lot of setups based on technical analysis, and I've never been able to get anything even close to that. What's your software? How do you know who sold and who buy back? That's a great question, and that's kind of the secret, isn't it? But the way that I do it is I have really simple rules about how market makers behave that are huge oversimplifications, but them being huge oversimplifications actually end up being beneficial. So, for instance, one assumption that I make is that if a limit buy gets filled, then that's adding to the buyer's position. If a limit sell gets filled, that's adding to seller's position. And then vice versa. If we have a move down, so if they sold and then we have a move down, then I assume that the seller took profits there. That's the assumption. And so what you end up with is maybe not necessarily what the reality is, especially since I can't factor in stops. I think it would be a lot more accurate if I could factor in stops. But instead what you get is like best and worst case scenarios, right? So I know based on the data that the best position that they could have is between those two lines, right? And so it's actually kind of telling you the limits of things, and so that's actually maybe even better than the reality in some cases. At least in the E-mini, I think it's probably better than the reality because the E-mini has so much noise to it anyways, right? Does that make sense? So really it's like a behavioral model. We take into account strategy and things like that. And I'm sure that it could be extended and it could be made a lot more sophisticated than it is. And I hope to continue to do things with it. For now, though, the issue is that it's like knowing where people's positions are is really useful, especially if we got a piece of news that comes out. But it doesn't necessarily give you a probability on what direction it's actually going to take next. Get a naked chart and compare to a successful trader ladder? Are you saying like go find an Axia video and look at the chart and then see where they took their positions and stuff? No. Like the issue with the Axia, it's kind of the issue with watching me is you don't necessarily know 100% why they do what they do. Because we don't always say. Anyways, the point of all of that, though, live action was like, if you have a setup that you believe works, then let me see it and backtest it. And we'll see how good it actually is. I don't remember where I got that VWAP breakout trade from, but I think that somebody gave it to me. Because it's not something that I really remember spending a lot of time on. What is it? Oh, you don't need to tick replay on this if it's a volume weighted moving average, do you? I'm not sure. I'll have to go try it. And that one's a long only strategy too. Oh, somebody gave it to me. I don't even think I wrote this one. Trader Tips Strategy for April 2017. It is a moving average crossover, by the way, too. But it's a very high... actually, there's some issues with this one because... Let me come back. There actually are serious issues with it because... Oh, wait, which one was this? Yeah. So the one that only takes longs. Well, the average trades are okay. It doesn't have set targets, though, so that you could potentially get a losing... Yeah, so like there, they had a losing trade of minus 207, so that kind of makes the results of that one a little sketchy. Because I could show you ones with like RSI that come out really good too, but you wouldn't want to trade that because you basically can't use a stop. You just have to get out when the signal says to get out. Anyways. So thinking back on this, I took a short. It was good. Wasn't the greatest spot. Came back. I really could have taken profits on that. Both of these could have taken profits on. But then there was this one, third one, where I took a long, and I'm thinking, was that a bad trade? I'm thinking that I might have just taken that one because we came up and the setup that I saw didn't work, and so I decided to flip, and that probably wasn't a good enough reason to flip. So I'll show you this one right here, because like this one didn't give me any favorable excursion. These ones, if I wasn't really trying, like here I was looking for this one to go 32 ticks. This one I was looking to try and hold it as long as I could. In both cases, I really should have taken profits at like plus 16 or something, right? Now it's kind of a similar thing over here, although this one isn't coming back as far. So maybe this one it works out, but overall I'm not very happy with it. Crazy frustrated. And of course, on a day like today, you've got people arguing with me too, huh? I can kind of see a face here in the Vista chart. Can you see the face? Maybe not. Here's like, I'm gonna draw it. It's like there's a face. There's the other eye. Then here's an eye. And here's an eye like that. And then I think he's like a smile like that. Yeah, you see it? You see it now? Maybe not. Rizwan, how does your positioning tend to compare to VWAP? Oh, that's a really interesting question, of which I have wondered myself. And I will show you over here on this chart. Is it Peppy? There you go. I have my own VWAP in here somewhere, I think. Order flow VWAP, or what did I call it? No. VWAP indicator. Restart on session. Okay. You've been playing with the Mr. Potato Head for too long. He doesn't have one. Well, that now I know what Asher's getting for Christmas. Okay. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so white line. White line is VWAP. Okay. So you know that they kind of track each other fairly okay, but not completely, right? For instance, here, the VWAP, it came up, this didn't really affect VWAP, but here you could see that all of the profit taking down here at the bottom really moved the seller's cost basis up. So I actually, one of the setups that I've been testing has to do with whether the VWAP itself is outside of these bands. And I've done some investigation on that. And that is this one right here. I'll show you. That one is the inventory crossover, where is it? I need to get rid of all these ones that are non-pinned. Oh, okay, right here. This one, this inventory spread. So it actually has a better profit factor than my these ones down here, these breakout ones. It's like I said, the breakout is the one that I'm most proud of. So 1.31, but it's only taking 172 trades versus 400 trades. Anyways, that one it includes a filter on the VWAP, and it needs to be, the VWAP needs to be in a certain location relative to the bands as well. I forget the exact specifics, but and that's the probabilities on that one. That one I take an equal risk reward. And interestingly enough, and there's the thing that's so weird about this, is that it seems to really work well for shorts. You see this? It's almost wins like 60% of the time for shorts, but only 50% of the time for longs for some reason. And I've tried to get it to test better for longs, but I just haven't been able to find a setup that improves it. So I might just leave that one alone, or I'm going to try and combine the two of them together and see what it does today, probably. This one I also need to backtest on maybe a few more years of data. Anyways, so yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. Now, how the specifics of how that ends up working and everything is kind of a little, I don't think I completely understand it. You know, you could go into math and you could explain why VWAP is here and why this is not, but I think it has something to do with the people taking profits and stuff, that basically you end up with the VWAP reflecting data of orders that aren't relevant anymore because they're not in those positions anymore. Now, of course, my model suffers that same issue to some extent. The further out it gets, I've found that, like when I look at the overnight session, you can see here how they went back and forth here, but then at some point it almost stops mattering. The other thing is just note that the tendency that I have found, or that I have back tested, is that it will stay in between these lines. It tends to. And if it goes past those lines, then you've got to break out. And if it goes through that stop out line and it starts to stay below that stop out line, then you have like a trend day. So that's why I'm trying to write this out, because it's saying to me that we're having a trending day and that I should be able to keep it for a while. That the chances of, it would have been way better if I was short from 3708, and maybe I would have held that original one too, but I didn't get a good enough position to do that. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of frustrating because these make really great targets, but you almost always leave a little bit on the table if you take your targets there too. So I'm not sure what to do about that one either. Anyways, why was I talking about that? Oh, what was live action saying here? I heard somewhere if your trades are too far away from the VWAP, you run the risk of losing financial backing from some prop firms. Really? So if you try and buy the dip on the low of the day, that might be a reason for them to get rid of you? I don't know about that. I do know that those funds like to do the VWAP. Like their goal is to acquire the stock at a price lower than the VWAP or sell it at a price higher than the VWAP. It totally makes sense why they would do that too. If you can do that, and of course that's easier said than done, but if you can enforce that, then it is going to improve your positioning. And there is definitely some differences in market behavior, whether you are above or below the VWAP. But for our model, it's kind of almost becomes irrelevant, right? Because then our positioning model kind of almost gives you an even better metric, right? So it definitely acts differently based on whether we are above or below the cost bases, or if we're in between them, right? It kind of gives you these further states. Before, there's just above the VWAP, below the VWAP. Now there's balance, there's buyer's advantage, there's seller's advantage, and then there's stop outs on both sides. And I find that is much more descriptive of the way that the market tends to move, Your way of VWAP depends on your time setup, probably not the same for everyone. Yeah. Well, most people are either going to do the extended session or the regular session VWAP. And so this is another interesting thing about this, my indicator, is that I have a session that it runs. It doesn't actually start at the regular session start, the ones that I'm back testing it on. It starts when I start. And that, for some reason, it seems to work way better. Maybe there are some other setups if I go back and I just use the RTH or whatever. But I haven't gone that deep into it. Or the ETH. Maybe you could find some setups that are better for those, but the issue with the ETH is that it tends to go. So that's where I don't know if it's as useful during those sessions. Oh man, well, I know I'm gonna end a little bit earlier, but I guess we're gonna try and let this ride. Obviously, I tried being a little more serious today. If this one turns into a loser, then I would be done. And I was done over in the treasury. I took this one and then I switched it. So I did catch a winner of some sort here. It doesn't make up for the failures though in the ZN. I tell you what, that thing has been super tricky today. It's gone on both sides of it. And I did see when I said, oh, maybe I want to take it there at 20.5. Probably could have taken that one, but you know what? It came back, but not really. So I guess it wasn't really a great trade. I'm just frustrated. You know what? I've never found myself to do incredibly well the second half of the year. I usually trade really great from January to April, and then the rest of the year is kind of a mess. So this year I did really well in the summer. I wasn't really trading my range bound strategies today, so that's probably an issue. Yeah, it's still short. So we can look at it 3,725, 3,704.25. I don't know if I should move that up or not. This is one of the problems I've been having is when I'm testing my strategies and I do like a move to break even, it just makes it worse. So I'm going to just try leaving it for now. I did get the 40, so that's maybe should say if I was paying attention, maybe I should have taken profits, but I'm really going to try and let it run. So we'll see. I'm not going to count that for, yeah, that's actually a good point. Is that I don't want to trade past lot. I'm going to leave that there. I think that will fill at some point. But let's just say that we took it off at 36.92 and a quarter. That's where I should have taken it off based on that I got to go. So it was a bad day, but because of that winter, it wasn't a terrible down day. I lost $20 overall, right? If that one had lost and it was 80, then it would have been end of the day. Switch accounts. Okay. And we're going to try and hold me to it, man. If I start taking multiple orders and doing crazy stuff over in the E-mini, you should be asking me, okay, are you on your experimental account now? Because I need to start getting myself back into because the beginning, like I said, the beginning of the year is when I do well. So I got to get myself back into that mode when perform well and exercise self-control so that I can trade during the time of the year that I do well. Still feels a little disappointing. Okay. Let's name the stream Markets Sell Off. Over McConnell. Stimulus comments. Period. 9th save. How many points are you after? I don't really set goals. Usually if I make like $100, then usually I'm not adding more risk unless I really feel strongly about that setup. Just because I know how far it tends to move during the day and how much opportunity there's actually going to be. So I don't really have a target. Most days I'm going to come out with 20 to 40. So I don't know. Obviously, the real issue today was that I saw what was going on and I thought that I was going to get some runs when I knew that it was still kind of a range-bound market, and I really should have been bringing in my targets, even though I knew there was a possibility for it to run. Thinking this was a situation where it would have been more appropriate to take the targets first. Or if I should have been like the first one, take the quick target, and then you have a little bit to play with, and then you can start to try and go for the runners or something like that, you know? Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay profitable, friends.